According to Douglas, the Ogilvies are descended from a certain Gilbert, second son of Gilibert, an Earl of Angus in the days of William the Lion, who witnessed many charters to the Abbey of Arbroath, and assumed the name of Ogilvie from his lands and barony so called. Patrick of Ogilvie, his grandson, was forced to swear fealty to the invader, Edward of England, for his lands in Forfar in 1296. In 1309 Robert I granted a charter to Patrick of Ogilvie of the Barony of Kettenes in Forfar. Walter Ogilvie of Wester Pourie was Hereditary Sheriff of Forfar, and in 1385 obtained from Robert II a money grant from the Thaindom of Kinalty, Forfarshire. His son, Walter Ogilvie, was also High Sheriff of Forfar, and lost his life in 1391, in a conflict with Duncan Stewart, a natural son of the Earl of Buehan, who invaded the county to burn and pillage. The sheriff overtook them at a place called Glenberith, and in the fight that ensued he fell with his brother and 60 of his clan. The line of Sir Alexander, eldest son of Sir Walter Auchterhouse, ending in a daughter, who became Countess of Buehan, Sir Walter Ogilvie of Lintrathen, second son of Sir Walter of Auchterhouse, became the head of the family. He was Lord High Treasurer under James I in 1425, and a commissioner for renewing the truce with England in 1431. He married Isobel Durward, the heiress of Lintrathen, by which his posterity were designed till raised to the peerage, which was the fortune of his grandson, Sir James, who after guaranteeing a treaty of peace with England in 1484, was made a Lord of Parliament in 1491 by James IV, as Lord Ogilvie of Airlie. He died in 1504. James, 6th Lord Ogilvie of Airlie, was a loyal subject to Queen Mary, for which he suffered long imprisonment, but was released by James VI in 1590, and sent ambassador to the court of Denmark to assist at the coronation of Christian IV. He died in 1506, and was succeeded by his son James, who married a daughter of William, Earl of Gowrie. James, 8th Lord Ogilvie, for his loyal and gallant services to Charles I, was created Earl of Airlie in 1639, and became as a royalist very obnoxious to the Scottish Parliament, against whom his second son, Sir Thomas, levied a regiment, at the head of which he fell at the Battle of Inverlochy. James, 2nd Earl of Airlie, by his valour contributed to the defeat of the Covenanters on more than one occasion, but was taken prisoner at Philiphaugh, and sentenced to death. He effected his escape from the castle of St. Andrews in his sister's clothes, and was afterwards pardoned. James, Lord Ogilvie, was out for King James in 1715, and, dying without issue, was succeeded by his brother John, as 4th Earl of Airlie. His son, afterwards 5th Earl, was a devoted adherent of the royal family, and joined Prince Charles at Edinburgh in 1745, with 600 men, principally of the Ogilvie clan. He marched to Derby, fought at Falkirk and Culloden, after which he retired to Norway, where he was made prisoner, but escaped to Sweden, and became an officer in the French service. He returned to Scotland in 1783. Walter Ogilvie of Airlie assumed the title in 1812, but the earldom was not restored by law till 1826. The next Earl and Chief is the 9th Earl. The first ancestor of the Ogilvies, Earls of Findlater, was Walter, a son of Sir Walter Ogilvie, who, as stated, married Isobel Durward, the heiress of Lintrathen. He obtained charters under the Great Seal of the Baronies of Deskford and Findlater in 1440. James, his heir, was knighted by James III, and his second son was Sir Walter of Boyne, from whom the Lords Bamf and Ogilvie of Strathearn, Lord High Treasurer of Scotland in 1516 were descended. Sir Walter Ogilvie, 7th of Findlater and Deskford, was created by James VI in 1616 Lord Ogilvie of Ueskford, and his son was raised to the Earldom of Findlater by Charles I in 1638. Having no male heir, he obtained a new patent conferring the title of Findlater after his death on his eldest daughter, Lady Elizabeth, and her husband, Sir Patrick Ogilvie, of Inchmartin, descended from an old branch of the family. Sir Patrick left a son, Sir Walter Ogilvie, who married the heiress of Sir John Glen, whose ancestor got that estate by marriage with the daughter of Sir Patrick Inchmartin of that ilk, who was secretary to Robert I, and was killed at the Battle of Duplin in 1332. James, 4th Earl of Findlater, born in 1664, was appointed Secretary of State by King William in 1695, and in 1701 was created Earl of Seatield. In 1704 he was Chancellor and a promoter of the Union. He sold his vote for £100. James, 5th Earl of Seafield and Findlater, was Vice-Admiral of Scotland in 1737. James, 7th Earl of Findlater, and 4th Earl of Seafield, left no issue by his countess, a daughter of Count Murray of Melgum, and at his death in 1811 the Earldom of Findlater expired, but the other dignities reverted to his cousin, Sir Louis Alexander Grant of that ilk, who then added to his own the name of Ogilvie. The Ogilvies of Dunlugus were first baronets in 1627, and in 1642 created Lords Bamf for the loyal services of Sir George Ogilvie, who fought at the Bridge of Dee in 1639. The title has been dormant since the death of William, 8th Lord, in 1803. John Ogilvie of Inverquharity was created a baronet in 1627, and George Ogilvie of Barras, for defending Dunatar against the English, in Ititil. Title extinct. In 1684 Ogilvie, the Laird of Logie, was brought before the Privy Council for shooting Alexander Leslie, writer, in a jealous quarrel. He was fined 200 sterling, and remitted by the king, though the Chancellor alleged that Ogilvie waylaid Leslie and then prodigiously murdered him. In the same year Francis Ogilvie of Newgrange was pursued by the Lords of Council for the forcible abduction of the daughter of David Scott of Haderwick. David Stewart Ogilvie of Corrimony, who had served in the Crimean War, joined the army of the Loire during the Franco-Prussian War, and gave, it is said, Gambetta a plan of the campaign. He died of wounds in action, in 1870, when Capitaine d'état-major of the 18th Corps d'Armée,